So can I learn multiple languages in a year? That's a question you might be asking yourself, and I want to answer that, or at least give some advice about that. My name is Franklin, and this is First1,000hours.com.
Don't give up on your language learning marathon. You can make it. You can make it through your first 1,000 hours.
All right, and so we're going to go ahead and put the presentation up here right now. And again, the question you might be asking yourself is, can you learn multiple languages in a year? And one of the reasons why I put the YouTube picture up there with that phone is because sometimes we are looking at YouTube videos and we find that people have YouTube videos about them learning multiple languages in a year. It might be 3 languages, or maybe not in a year, I mean multiple languages. And it might be like 3 languages, 5 languages, 20 languages, or something like that. And you might be wondering, can I do the same? But can I even do that in 1 year? And so I am not going to tell you what you can or cannot do, but I want to share with you my experience in language learning and be able to give you some guidance to help your thought process, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and go right into this presentation. So the first question I have for you is, what is your definition of when someone has learned a language? This is going to be very important to kind of determine if you can learn multiple languages in a year. So please, you need to have a definition, and if you do have a definition of what this actually looks like, I'm going to ask that you go ahead and put that in the live chat, or you put that in the comments, because I would be interested in what your definition is. Okay, so I have questions like this. Have you learned a language after you finish a Duolingo course? So some people might, maybe you haven't finished a Duolingo course, or maybe you're just starting, and you might say, okay, well, if I do this Duolingo course, I'm going to learn Chinese, or I'm going to learn German. And you might go to Duolingo, you see a lot of people that have all of these different flags indicating the courses that they've taken with Duolingo. And you might say, okay, well, if they can learn multiple languages like that, then I can do that too. So you might have that as a definition of just when you learn a language when you complete a Duolingo course. Or it might be you learn a language when you take college language learning courses. Or your definition might be that you've learned a language after you upload a 5 to 10 minute YouTube video speaking in your new language. So again, what is your definition? So the reason why having a definition is so important is this. If you don't have a specific definition for learning a language, how will you know if you've learned multiple languages in a year? And this is one of the reasons why at First 1,000 Hours, I like to talk about having specific goals. And on this channel, I even have two specific New Year's goals that I have given monthly updates on, because I want to be accountable, not only saying, hey, I want to go further in Spanish and be very ambiguous, but I want to say, okay, well, I have a goal of reading 2,000 pages, and I have a goal of spending watching at least 200 hours of courses in Spanish designed to teach me something outside of Spanish. Okay, so that's specific. And so that's what I want to encourage you to have as well. All right, so let's continue. All right, so I want to share with you what my definition of learning a language is. And it is that one has learned a language after spending at least 1,000 hours primarily reading, listening, and watching things created for native speakers, as well as speaking and writing as he or her has opportunity. And that is very important, I would say, especially here on YouTube, because again, people have a lot of different videos about them speaking in multiple languages, but what does it mean to learn a language? Their definition might be entirely different from your definition, and I think that it's easy to want to have titles on YouTube that are a little bit clickbaitish, where you try to really, promise something that is not really something that you've really done, maybe. I'm not saying that that's the case for anybody that has done these videos, but you need to know what language learning is for yourself so you can accomplish those type of goals. All right, let's continue in this presentation. All right, so we're going to go into first 1,000 hour math for me to give you my opinion. And before we do that, I want to let you know that First 1,000 Hours is also now on Telegram. So if you would like to follow First 1,000 Hours on Telegram and get kind of like a little behind the scenes view of First 1,000 Hours, you can find a link to that in the description of this video. All right, let's go ahead and go into First 1,000 Hour Math. I need to let you know a little bit of the assumptions of this. First, I'm going to assume that a person has had contact with the new language they're trying to learn 6 days in the week. So 6 days in a week, every week in the year. Okay, and so that would be 313 days. And I got that from doing 365 days in a year minus 52 days of no contact with the language. And I figured that probably there would be a point where somebody might want a little bit of time having no contact with that language. So I just said, okay, let's just have a little break from that 1 day of the week. Okay, so now let's look at the First 1,000 Hour Math. So if you followed that, then if you had one language, if you sought to learn one language in a year, that's going to be 313 days, and it would take you 3.19 hours per day to get up to that level. Now, I should mention something, that there's more to the First 1,000 Hour mentality or the First 1,000 Hour philosophy than just spending hours in a language, and I talk about a lot of this on this channel, so I can't talk about everything, in just one video. But let's continue with the First 1,000 Hour Math here. So if one person wanted to learn 2 languages in a year, then that would be them spending 6.39 hours in a day. Now that's a lot of time, especially if you're trying to also work, you might have children, you might be doing other things, and then on top of that, spending this time with the language. So if you wanted to learn 3 languages in a year, then that would be 9.56 hours in a day that you would have to spend. Now, honestly, if you spend 3 hours a day with a language, that's already a lot of time, but now we're multiplying that by 3, and that's pretty intense. Let's continue. So if you were seeking to learn 4 languages in a year, that would be 12.77 hours a day that you would need to spend. If you wanted to learn 5 languages in a year, you would need to spend 15.97 hours in a day. How many people have that much time? I surely don't have that much time in a day to dedicate to language learning. All right. Now, if you wanted to learn 6 languages in a year, that would be 19.19 hours in a day. And 7 languages in a year, that would be 22.36 hours in a day. That gives you less than 2 hours to do other things other than, spending that time in a practical way with language learning. And now we're going to come to 8 hours in a day. Let's see how long that will take. 8 languages in a year. That's actually going over the actual possible time you have in a day. That's 25.56 hours a day. And so when you look at these videos of people talking about multiple languages in a year multiple languages at once, I don't know how many people talk about multiple languages in a year, but the searches or the question is multiple languages at once. You need to consider the actual time and dedication it takes to actually spend with one language. And what I personally recommend is at least spending 1 hour a day, 6 days a week, seeking to learn a language. And if you do that, then it will take you a little over 3 years to get up to your first 1,000 hours. Obviously, the intensity could be a little bit greater depending on how much you want to spend with that. And you might wonder, how in the world did I get up to having the idea of 1,000 hours? And so I have a playlist that I'm going to put on the screen that will talk about how long it takes to learn a foreign language. And then there will be a video that YouTube recommends. And I hope to see you in the next video.